Welcome to my neighborhood. I'm Pat Sloan, and this is my Fireside Chat. I'm going to try something a little bit different today, so we'll see how it goes. You can tell me whether you like it or not, because so many of you said, let's just sew together. And really, I'm not really sure how to make that happen on this back side of my sewing table, but I'm going to try it today. Before we start that, I have to tell you my snack of the week. It's 52 snacks, remember. So I went and got some cookies. These are Otterbein cookies, and they're divine. They are from Maryland, and these are lemon sugar cookies. I had to open them here. Get my Olfa scissors because they're good for everything. Excellent, right? Do you have these ones yet? You know I love scissors. I have to do a whole segment on scissors. Tell me if you want to know about my scissor obsession. I will do it. So here are the lemon sugar cookies. They're very nice with coffee and tea and just for a little light afternoon snack. So that's one of my favorites, and I will link you. They mail order, so I'll link you up to them if you feel like you want to do that. So let me see. I want to be sure we get everything in today. Every week for the next couple of Fireside Chats, I will be showing you one of my Bonnie Lane quilts, but this is too hard to show the whole quilt back here. So this one is called Glow, and I think that's what it is. Yeah, it's Glow. And so I'm going to show you in segments. There's whoops. So this is Bonnie Lane fabric, and it's using a lot of the different pieces. Let me see how far I can get this out here. I'm going to put it in front of me. Ta-da! What can you see? Can you see? Yes. So it has quite a few rows, and let me see if I can get some of the ones from the bottom here. I don't know. I'm kind of partial to the blue. I'm always partial, but I like that green one right above it too, right? So this is Sew Emma pattern, and it comes in, here, let me just toss it over here a second. On the chair, on the side, there we go. I think I just busted a nail doing that. No, I think it's good. I think I'm good. I didn't break it. Felt like I broke it there. So that's, sorry for the distraction. On this back side, I'm right against the wall. So I don't really have a lot of room. I wanted to do this on the other side today, but I have stuff on the wall that's I can't show you. So that means we have to be on this side of the table. So I only have so much space. So the Glow pattern has several sizes, and I have the supply list out there and the photo, and the pattern is available because these are an existing pattern that we did in the Bonnie Lane colors, Bonnie Lane fabrics. So I will link you all up to that one. That will be just fabulous. You can get it right away. The other thing I want to share, like I'm looking out on the internet, and there's lots of things that you may not know about that go on that I think are really fun or extraordinary or something you should know about. And I love what my friend Jenny Smith is doing of Jenny Sews. She's a quilt maker in the UK, a designer. I've interviewed her. She works with Aurifil. She does incredible work. She makes like all her own clothing. She makes quilts. But what she decided to do was a whole series, and the title of it is Just One Quilt. And what she's doing is interviewing people. She teaches locally there to her, well, and other places, but she is interviewing people about just one quilt in their life as something significant. They're fairly short videos, maybe 10 minutes, and she's in person with them generally. So far she has been. So there's a lot of UK quilters, and they're everyday people. She also is interviewing people who you might know, but for the most part, it's people make important quilts in their life, and Jenny wanted to document that, and I think she's doing a year worth. I can't remember how long her thing is going, but the interviews are so nice and so fascinating because people make quilts that have stories interwoven, and you're going to really feel the impact and the love of what they did and why they created it and who they created it for. And she's a great interviewer. She has a background in TV, and so you can really see she makes people so comfortable, and they are all generally people she already knows. A lot of them are, her students or people from her life locally. So it's great, and I will link you to that. It's Just One Quilt by Jenny Smith, and you'll really love it. It's really great. I'm just so impressed with it, and really love each new episode when it comes out. And they're short, so don't take you that long to watch. Okay, so before we get into the fun part, the new part that I'm not sure how this is going to go, I want to first show you the Merry Mini, the Christmas in July, right? We're doing Christmas in July, and we had block number 2 this past week, last Tuesday. So every Tuesday, today's Monday, tomorrow is the 3rd block. But block number 2 came out, and it is the snowflake block. And there I did it in my Bonnie Lane, because I'm doing them all in winter fabrics. So here was my first one again. So I have the first one, which is a poinsettia, and then the snowflake. So there we go. You can see that both of them. Whoop. And this is so fun. There's just 4 blocks and then a border. So by the end of, and then the last Tuesday of July is the setting, which is very simple. So you'll be able to get it all together. And mine are winter colors. We have Chelsea Stratton, Sherry McConnell, Beverly McCulloch are all each week. I'm the last block. So this coming week is Bev McConnell's of Flamingo Toes, and then of course Fat Quarter Shop is making one with Stacy Issue's holiday fabric, her Christmas fabric. So everyone's different. Everybody's using a different line of fabric, so that's really fun. So you get to see a whole different variety of things. Yay! So the other thing I asked you last week when I did the prize last week, I said, what habit do you want to break? It can be a sewing habit that you want to break, some other kind of habit you don't want to do anymore. I thought it was fascinating. I've been, reading through your habits and what you want to do. And I thought I would share what mine is while I'm doing the sewing, because I want to share 2 sewing habits that I broke myself of. Because one is super important, and I didn't do it a lot, but I can't even do it now. I just, but I used to, a lot of times when I was working, take my pin, put it in my mouth. Take the end of the pin, hold it in my mouth. And I read one of those horror stories of somebody who, swallowed the pin. And I just said, no way, I'm not doing that ever again. And so it took a little while because it was such an ingrained habit. I'd probably been doing it since high school when I learned to sew clothing. That is what you did. So now instead, I will, pin it to my shirt. So I wear, this is like dragging down on my blouse, isn't it? Oh well, I'm not going to go change clothes in the middle of this. This is what it is today. So I'll put a pin here, or I always have the magnetic pin bowls, so I can just dump it in the magnetic pin bowl, and I'm not doing that. The other habit I have that I broke myself of also has to do with pins. So they're both pin habits, and I will share that one when I get to the sewing part, because that's where I had the habit. So the first one is no more putting pins in our mouth. If you're doing it now, break yourself of it, like immediately. Just, as soon as you start doing it, stop. You don't want to, it's not necessary. It's not necessary. You have other ways to handle the pin. It doesn't take any longer to have a pin cushion, or you could have a wrist cushion, those ones that you wear on your wrist or your finger. Just stick it somewhere else. So I am going to talk scrap quilts and a little bit of scrap talk, and then we'll sew a scrap block. I don't know about this sewing online. I know you all are like, let's sew together. So I'm not sure you can hear me that well if the machine is running, but we're going to try it, okay? And then you can tell me how it goes. But first I want to talk about scraps. before I talk about what I'm going to sew, I actually have, here you go, I have the Jubilant up here on the table, and because I'm sitting at the back of my regular table and ergonomically there's shelving under here, and this isn't like, and I don't have the high seat, the high ledge to put my foot pedal on like I do on that side. On that side I actually have a ledge, so the foot pedal is lifted up. It's amazing. This Koala Studio table is amazing. But here I don't have that, so I am going to sew with the button. So we will sew with the button. There won't be any foot pedal with the sewing today. But scrap quilting, I'm not a huge, oh, my blouse, sorry, it's bothering me. It looks weird when it gets all crumpled up because the mic is heavy. I know, third world problems, right? Or no, I'm sorry, it's first world problems. I can't even say the joke right. Okay, never mind, let's move on. Moving on. So the scraps. For years, I just kept all kinds of scraps, and then, because I do this as a business, my business is not making scrap quilts as my thing. Some people, that's their thing. They write books on scrap quilts and that. And I have done that a bit, but I also do a lot of other type of quilts, and so I had to really think and slim down what I do and what I kept with scraps, and that's because of my work style. Also, I know myself, and this is where I think you can look at yourself, like, what do you really like to do? Are you really into making those big scrap quilts and you really want to save all that stuff, or do you want to do something much simpler, so you're still saving scraps but you have more of a tight plan? So it's a very tight plan, and that's what I have. My plan is very tight. Right now I'm just doing 2.5-inch squares. So look at this. So I keep these boxes. I have several of these shoe boxes. There you go, and they're pretty. This one's pretty full, except for that yellow pile. I don't have a lot of yellow at the moment, but this is all blue, light blue. There's some I sewed together. This is a stack of red in here. I also have red over by my sewing machine over there, over by the Solaris. So once this gets pretty full, I need to use it up, because I am not going to buy more tubs and cut them in here. This means it's time to use it. Like, here's a bunch that were sewed together already, and it's strip. It's not sewed together. Oh, these ones are all strips. Excuse me. So I'm sorry, like allergy thing today. So these are strips that I can cut, and some of them are already sewn. So this is the stuff. Usually though, everything is already cut like this. They're already, whoops, they're already 2.5-inch squares. They're not, I'm not messing around. Let's just get them cut up. I don't know why those ones aren't. So I have over time done just the basic quilt. Let me pull this up. I've done just the basic quilt, which is would be navy with cream, and go back, just alternate them like a huge giant checkerboard. But I have another pattern out there, and it's a free pattern called Traffic Jam. And I did this years ago for a sew along, and recently a couple people had finished theirs and showed it in my Facebook group, and a local friend, Lisa, had shared it into our local guild Facebook group. And so I thought, oh, this would be perfect, because I haven't made one of these in a long time, and it uses 2 sizes of squares and some strips if you decide to do sashing. Or you could just do the blocks. But the block, and you can print this, I'll link to it, but that's the basic blocks, squares and some bigger squares. And then if you want to set it with sashing, you can do like this. This is all in the pattern. So that's 2.5-inch squares and 4.5-inch squares. So I wanted to just walk through what I would do, and then sew a little of this up during our time here, during the time allotted, see what we can do. So I decided that I would do the dark blue. rather than the aqua. I would do the dark blue because I want to use some lights that I have that have some pattern on them. And if I use the light colors, like, you know, and try to put it against some of the patterns, it might, I'm going to show you the light colors, it might get lost. So, you know, like there's an aqua, turquoise. So I thought I'm not going to deal with the light blues. I'm just going to deal with the navies. And then that way it'll be navy with a print, a cream, an off cream and off white print with something on it. So let me show you that part. Let me just put this over here in the rolling assistant because I'll just grab a handful of those then. But let me show you the lights. I have how many bins of lights? Like almost 3 bins of lights. There's probably 4. There's some, I think there's some more out there. Too much. I can't use all of these. I mean, this is crazy. And I have a lot of these that are sort of novelty prints in this particular group, like these guys. These are things I've had forever. Look at this. Ah, isn't that cute? So like, if I use this piece, let's say I want to use this in a block, use it up because this is it. There's not much here. I don't have, you know, this is not a very big piece. So I could take my 4.5. Now I'm doing this upside down. Okay, I'm not used to doing it upside down. Okay, here we go. So here's the 1, here's the 4.5. And then down here, like the 4.5, or if I want to do it from the bottom, which is how I would kind of do it, I'd be cutting like this. And that gives me, here's the 4.5, and here's the 4.5. So I'm probably, if I could sew chunks together. I could maybe, see, this 1, maybe sew something to that 2, and then, yeah, so I could probably get 4 blocks out of this and be done, or do 2 blocks and then cut the rest for 2.5-inch squares. So I at least want 1 4.5, but while I'm here, this is how I think. While I'm here, I want to cut it all up because I don't want to deal with it later. I don't want to deal with little parts that stick back in this bin here. So I will, and I also decided I would bring that. Here's these little, I brought a little wool mat up, and I've got under here the little clover iron. So that has to come on because really this has a pretty big crease in it from sitting enfolded in the basket. I mean, you can see that crease. There's 2 of them actually. And I think I'd like to press that out a little bit because your block, if you have, let me bring this up. If you have creases like that in your fabric and you're cutting, yes, you can push your ruler down really well, but it's, if you aren't pushing your ruler down really well to get it flat, or if it's sort of shifted a little bit, you are not cutting an accurate piece of fabric because that crease is in there. So I will, let's see, I'm just going to see, is it hot? It's still warming up. I didn't have it. I had it under the shelf here, which is where this basket of white lives. So I'm heating it up. The little wool mat, you always want to be sure that they're very, very thick. So they are not really going to heat through. But if you are like power sewing and power pressing, just pick it up every so often and feel the back like this, and just be sure you are not, you know, you don't want to warp your table. So I am just heating up that seam. Like I could use some sort of wrinkle remover stuff. I have that pineapple spray, which I didn't get it out because I don't want to spray the wool with it. I would just spray the fabric, or you could starch, but I don't starch unless I really need to, like, and that would be just for small squares. So I'm going to put I don't have a lot of room here, so I do not want to burn myself with the iron. So I'm at this point. Okay, I'm going to put the iron over there because I don't want to hit it. Okay, I cannot cut upside down, so you will have to watch from this side. So this has a pinking on here. Can you see that? You bring this down. You know, it was from a layer cake probably, because you don't get it off the bolt pink. So you see the edges are all pinked. I usually go to the outside. I don't want to have to trim that off, because outside edge is what I'm going to focus on when I'm piecing. So I go all the way to the outside. So I am going to do the 4.5, the whole strip. So let me pull this back out. So I'm going to do the whole strip up as a 4.5 inch strip, and then decide I'm going to get at least one 4.5 inch square. So 4.5. So there's this guy, and then I have 4.5. Okay, so this I have to just be sure I did 4.5, 4.5, and 4.5. Yep. So he's all good. So I've got my. These Olfa rulers are really nice because they don't have a skid on them. You know, they have like they're frosted. That's the word. So they're frosted. So they actually have like a gripping, which is really nice. So I'm doing one square, and then I have the pattern, which remember I'm doing, was it 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, but here I've got 4 and 2 squares. So we'll just do one portion of the block. But I need another. I'm going to make this very scrappy. I decided I could try to do like all 4 of these, you know, the Buckingham Palace guys, but I think I want to do this quilt scrappy instead. So I'm looking up here to see what else I have that would be fun to put with this. Something that's maybe just got texture to it. Okay, here's one. So here's one that's got just some texture. So I will cut another 4.5 inch square so that I can do 4 2.5 and 2. Okay, so you got the 2.5 inch squares and the 4.5 inch squares. All right, 4.5. Now this, got to get that cut. I'm going to cut it a little oversized and then trim it. Alrighty, stick that up out of the way. And 4.5 by 4.5, I've got it lined up. Trim 2 sides. This happened to be taking off the pinking. I'm not too worried about that. I also use this little bowl that I got at, I don't know, some sort of home decor shop. And that's where I put my string and things. All right, so to do the pattern, I am working, I have these 2 blocks, and I need 4 blue ones. So I will audition and see what 4 blue ones do I want in the middle. So I am not going to be thinking too much about this. So I don't want to repeat here. And so there, I had like pick this up. That's a repeat. Got this, but I need something a little bit different. And I can keep them all dark. See, now I got into these light blue ones over here. I don't want that. I'm going to stay with all dark like this. So now I have, that's one unit for the pattern, one of these guys, and I'll sew it. Alrighty, now this is the fun part, sewing without a presser foot. So I'm going to pull this all back. You know, I can't, I only have one camera, so you can just we can talk, right? We can talk. So tell me how you're doing your scraps. You know, like I am taking these here 2 at a time, and just going to chain sew them through, and I want to be sure I don't mix them up because I don't want these 2. I want these 2. I don't want those 2 next to each other. I want them like this. So I want to be sure that I didn't accidentally down here. So you can see, I just want to lay them out exactly as I'm going. Now my Baby Lock Jubilant, let's just take a look at the front of this before I sew. Whoop, there we go. So there is a, this is the button I'll hit to do the stop and start. And then over here is speed control. So way down is super slow, and this is like the speed of sound. So I am going to go about the middle because I have to always pick my hand up in order to turn the button off, and so that means a loss of control for holding the fabric. So I want to be sure that I'm not just going super fast. And this is where I want to show you my other hack, or my other habit rather, that I had to break myself of. So I used to take and pin things, and I would hold them in my hand, and I would pin so that the pin was facing me. I'm going to sew on this edge out here. I would have it so the pin was facing me, which means when I'm in the machine, the pin is on the left, meaning for me to remove it, I had to use my left hand. And then where did I put the pin? I'm a right-handed person. My pin bowl is over here, so I would like take it out like this and dump it over here every time. And finally I'm like, what am I doing? What I need to do is pin it so on the outside so the pin head is facing the machine. Then as I sew through, I pull it out, and I'm right-handed, and it goes in the bowl. So that is the other habit that I had to break myself of. Now for this particular project, at this point, I don't need any pins because they're just these short squares that I'm sewing sections, and I don't need any pins. So I've the sewing machine started, and because I'm doing this, it's a little harder to chain piece. I haven't figured out the best method to do it. Now if one of you is, okay, so tell me this. So if one of you is chain piecing by sewing with the button, I want you to tell me what your process is, because I think that would be really cool to know, because I'm used to sewing with a foot pedal, so I'm you know, have to sort of stop it to pick up the next section. But maybe you just do it really quickly and it just keeps running, or maybe you take the speed down a little bit more and it keeps running. So like right now, I took the speed down. Can you hear? There, it's a little bit loud, a little bit faster. And then when it stops, it stops. And I will go ahead and cut the thread. And now let's press. Let's go ahead and talk about pressing. So I want to have, you know, I'm going to press them to the side. So this one will go this way, and this one will go the other way, and that way the seams butt up against one another. I usually like to set the seam just a little bit, and then oops, I'm right-handed, so I really just need to get this over here in my right hand. And there's no water in these little, well, I guess there is. Is there a water thing? No, there's no water in these little guys. Yeah, there's no holes, see? There's no water, so, but it gets really hot. It's very, very nice. So here we go. Press this. And now we are ready to join those with the seam. And what I mean is I'm going to cut that little thread here so that where the join thread, I don't need to do that normally, but I want to do it to show, so that I can show you what I'm doing. Here is how the seams are butted together. So they are sort of snug up one against the other, since the seam allowances go opposite ways. Now if I want to pin that, I'll pin with the pin head on the outside versus what I used to do, which was the pin head facing me, because I was holding it, so I was making it facing me, and I did that for years. I mean, literally a zillion years. It is not that long ago that I finally converted over to this. Now sometimes it's nice, particularly on a long run of pieces that you're sewing, is, you know, to sew the end down here, because what happens is when we don't sew the end, sometimes they shift apart. They start to shift apart, so when you get down there, they're not actually even anymore, and we're zooming along, so it's nice to put a pin in there. All right, and let's sew this to get a 4 patch, and This is like watching paint dry, isn't it? And I have the pins in there, so of course you know, do not ever sew over pins. As much as you think you can sneak it through, and you will sneak it through, and you will be successful often, and then there'll be that one time that you run over the pin and you have to spend hundreds of dollars to fix your machine. So break that habit. If that is a habit that you put down, is that I have to stop sewing over pins, break that habit. So there's a lot of strings here because I'm not using a thread cutter. There's no automatic thread cutter on this one. But the Jubilant is just an amazing machine. It is so great. It's perfect for travel. It's perfect for a second machine, like if you have some place that you like to, you go in the winter and you want to leave it, have a second machine, or just want to take a smaller one with you. So there we go. Now we have this and these. So I will be able to make one unit. There we go. One unit of the traffic jam. And now you have to decide, like if you're working with Scrappy, I'm talking Scrappy here. Like I will probably make all of these different fabrics, and I'll probably repeat some of these because like this one, I want to use that. I want to use this up. I don't want to deal with that anymore. I want to put it in this project and use it up, but I'll put it in several different blocks. But you can see that you're not getting super crispness against these prints because there's a lot of prints against each other. So that's the nature of Scrappy quilts, is that, and these are larger pieces. This is a 4-inch finished square. So it gives you a nice using up of scraps, but it also is a big piece of fabric. So if you want this to be more tonal, you could always just go with smaller prints and not use ones that have so much other color in it. Meaning, let me just give you an example. I'll grab a handful here. Like, well, there's a light one. So, but if you don't want to do light ones, here. So like this would be a print that doesn't have as much. Let me just move it to the side there. So that doesn't have as much going on. Obviously, this one, even though it's medium, that's actually solid. There's a polka dot that doesn't have as much going on. I probably wouldn't do the light, so I would be going all dark. So here's another good one. So if I really wanted to keep it a little bit less busy looking, I would remove those two. So let's do this. So you can do this, and you can see a huge change in how that looks. It makes your eye focus more on the soldiers than this does, where the florals sort of take your attention as well. So you have two things. All right, that's a little bit about the scrap quilts. Let me just show you a couple more things on the Jubilant before we wrap it, and we'll wrap it up here. So yeah, I just love the Jubilant. It is darling. I'm going to lift it. I forget how much it weighs. I should probably find that out and be able to tell you. But there's a bunch of videos on it online. It has a lot of different settings. It's a computerized one, so you can see that you have a lot of different computerized options. It has the needle up, needle down there. It's got a little tray and a bunch of different feet that come in it. So there's some other feet, other feet that come with it. But it is a wonderful, wonderful machine, and I'll link you up to this because you can actually purchase this one online through my links, and it doesn't cost you any more money, and they actually have it on a really good price, and they often have free shipping too. So I will link you to that in case you are looking for a machine this size, and it's super reasonable. I think it's super reasonable. I don't know what the going rate is right now, but you can check it out. And I thank you also for using my links whenever you're shopping, because that helps our small family business. And like I said, it doesn't, you don't pay any more for it. And sometimes I often find you a really good deal, so I'm linking you to a good deal on things. That's what I like to do. Okay, so last week my giveaway was some set of squares of my Bonnie Lane. somebody's getting that. I'm going to tell you who in a minute. And then I had run out of time last week, so I wanted to tell you a little bit about Nancy Scott's book, because she owns Masterpiece Quilting. She does lots of videos. She has lots of patterns for the magazines. You've probably seen them. This is a self-published book of hers, and it is just gorgeous. It is just so beautiful. There's something like she has the wreaths in here, and I'm going to link you up to this because you can get her book online. Oh, this is, I'm going to get to holly. If you like holly, she has this really nice holly banner in there, and the quilts, you know, are super nice. And she's very talented. Her you have to go check out her website. Now my giveaway, oh, who wins that? Who wins that? That goes to. So I had a problem with comments, finding there was just a technical issue when I was getting this all together. So I went back and I grabbed a comment from last week. So bonus, if you've been commenting forward, I'll do that again next time. Sometimes the technology has a little blip right when I need it. So Georgia from North Carolina will win this, and she enjoys spending time with her great-granddaughter. And she likes to read to her and have tea parties with her dolls and her stuffed animals. Her great-granddaughter's 19 months old. Aw. Oh, they also watch BBC TV programs. So my giveaway this week is this beautiful, beautiful bundle of fabric from Melissa Mora of Melly Sews. And she does clothing, super tutorials. She has, look, it's got this great sewing machine fabric and lovely prints. I like the stitching line. Look, I love the floral, the gorgeous, well, I just have to take it out, the gorgeous floral, and then she has it in pinks. It's just beautiful. So in order to win this one, you leave me a comment at my website about what technique do you want to learn. So this is a technique base. Since we're here sort of sewing today, I thought that would be good to do. So I'm Pat Sloan. Please go ahead and subscribe if you haven't done that yet so you don't miss anything here at YouTube, because you always get this notice. You might miss it on Facebook, or you might miss it on Instagram, since you don't get to see all of those as they float by. And I will be chatting with you all week online, and I'm going to be working hard on a UFO this week, plus some other projects that I'll be talking about. So I'm excited for the week to start. It's Monday night, and kicking it off with the Fireside Chat. Talk to you next week.